coming. I know it's weather out there is just not helping, but obviously we're all here. We're all together. Together, we definitely make a difference. On behalf of Transitions, we thank you for coming to our Path to Healing and Redemption event. Today, it's a very important day for Transitions and for Overtown community. It is very important because when we engage with our community and help others, we make a difference in our community. Today, we have the honor to have Mr. John Reed as a guest speaker, native from New York City, who served 17 years in prison and was released in 2010 on his mother's birthday. That to me, I can only imagine, just reuniting with his family and his mother on such a special occasion to have him back. So what a gift for his mom on that day. We are honored to have Mr. Reed here today because he's leaving proof that it can be done to have a successful reentry after serving time and to do the wonderful things that he has done and continue to do for his community, to inspire others, to lead it by example and to do the right thing. It's definitely commendable. We thank you for that. So please help me welcome Mr. John Reed.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
In the spirit of love, truth, and hope, it gives me great pleasure to be here this morning to share a few words with you that may inspire you and shed some light on a dark situation. It is an honor and a privilege and pleasure to be here, and I thank you all for your attendance, for your smiling faces, for your interest. I want to thank Mr. Bermudez and the staff at Transition for welcoming me here into this beautiful city, Miami.
Yes.
Miami in the house?
In the building.
Y'all can be a little louder than that. Is Miami in the house?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Miami Gardens.
And this is my first time in Miami.
What?
And this year actually has been a tremendous year for me. I've been to ATL for the first time. I've been to South Carolina for the first time. I've been to North Carolina and now Florida. And my journey to the South, for me, has been a spiritual journey. I've been to Virginia prior to my incarceration. But since I've been home, I've been to ATL and down for the first time. So that means I didn't come here like those of my peers back in the days for Freaknik. I didn't come down here to sell drugs like a lot of us did in New York. I came to the South for the first time, and it was spiritually based. So I had the opportunity to come to Florida, and I was just gonna come and lay up in the hotel. But then something struck me and said, you know what? You need to go down there and do some work. And on October 7th, I woke up with a burning desire to do just that. And in 3 days, we contacted Mr. Bermudez. My publicist spoke to Mr. Bermudez, and we're here. To me, that's significant, that the response happened so fast, and there's friends, there's family in the audience. The great Carol Bishop, who's been in my corner since I've been home, that I don't remember as a child, but I met through Facebook, and has been watching me and encouraging me all along. I have my advisor, Bishop Jordan. I have the writer, great writer in the audience, thinking Miss Karen O'Connor, someone else I connected with when I was incarcerated and just used to write. And I must say that, just because you're in prison doesn't mean that it's over.
That's right. That's right.
It may just be beginning for me.
All right. That's right.
Because the man that I am today and hope to become started with me being in prison. So I'm thankful for actually going to prison because it helped me find out who I am and it helped me connect with the people that went through the same things I've been through. So now I have the opportunity to help these people by connecting with them. While I was away, I did a lot of teaching. I participated in a lot of workshops, interactive workshops, where we discussed issues that wouldn't normally be discussed outside of prison.
That's right.
See, everybody has a story, right? Everybody's been through something, right? But everybody don't talk about it.
That's right. That's right.
If you can connect with somebody and get them to talk about it, then we can move towards a transition and a healing. So I want to give you a little background, if I may. Native New Yorker. I grew up as a latchkey kid in the Bronx, which means that I let myself in, right, after school. I washed my own clothes, I fed myself. Unfortunately, I learned from negative role models in the street, up in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan. And the things I learned took me down a different path. School was always, pretty easy. It wasn't much of a challenge. The challenge was feeling comfortable in that environment. It wasn't about the schoolwork. It was about, the disrespect. It was about the violence. It was about the snapping on each other and all the things that children do to make you feel uncomfortable because you don't wear the same sneakers that they're wearing. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right?
Right, right.
So you have different personality types in school. You have the children who may have two parents in the household and they have whatever is in style, right? They're wearing the latest fads, right? Because they have an older brother or sister that told them what to buy them. Then you have the child who may have a one-parent family, and the mother may be struggling, and she can buy you just what she can afford. But it may not be the real thing. It may be the imitation thing. And you're made to feel insecure because you don't have what somebody else has, which creates feelings, right? And then you have the child who may not have those things, may have a little bit of muscle. So if I go upside your head, you won't snap on me. You won't make fun of me. And then that becomes part of your personality, right? It sophisticates from just fighting after school to now sticks and knives and guns to the point where your true self is buried and your image is full blown. And you start naming yourself names like the Terminator, right? Where you want to get to the point where you're shooting at people and shooting at police and your friends encourage this. Then we have the drug selling children, right? Right? And the ladies man who may turn into the pimp. And all of these different personalities and images that are inculcated into us from older negative role models that take us down a path of destruction.
That's it.
So, I embraced violence as a way of solving problems. And for doing it so long, I ended up in prison because I killed somebody. And I'm not ashamed to say that I killed somebody. I do carry a burden of weight, and I'm not gonna just cliche and call it, remorse. It's much more than that. It's like a bag of bricks on my shoulders that I had to carry. I've accepted it. I've come to terms with it, and it happened actually this week, 21 years ago. My wife at the time was robbed, and she was robbed by a local, another lost gentleman in the community who was on drugs. And rather than calling 911, because when we were from the streets, we taught not to do that, right?
Yeah.
So I went out there and handled it myself. And unfortunately, it led to the brother losing his life. After 5 months of running, I turned myself in, took responsibility, and I entered into the prison system in New York State. And immediately, I went to work. I went to work on myself because what I saw in the prison system, I didn't want it to be the rest of my life. I didn't want that. 11 months on Rikers Island, and I was up north in a state penitentiary. And I've been to just about all of them in New York State that you probably heard of: Auburn, Clinton, Attica, Comstock, all of these gladiator schools, which can either turn you into a man or turn you into an animal. An animal. Because if you don't, if you don't have feelings, if you can't identify with your feelings, you're an animal. You're on the animal plane. And unfortunately, many of us, as men particularly, we don't identify with what we feel. We have zero emotional intelligence. We're taught not to exhibit, feelings of sadness because we're considered soft or a punk. But you're human. It's funny, they laugh at the rapper Drake. They say Drake is the emotional rapper. I don't like him. But what about the angry one? That's an emotion.
Yes, it is.
Is that right?
That's right.
So when we don't have emotional intelligence, we use words like, I feel stressed out, or I feel effed up, right? Is that an emotion? Is that the definition of a feeling? Clinically, can you look up effed up and link that to an emotion? No, it's a cover. It's a general term that's covering up something else. See, women, the sisters in the house, y'all would say I'm sad, right? I'm lonely. I'm hating. Brothers ain't gonna do that. The last time you heard a man, a black man, or a Latino man say, I'm hating right now? He's not gonna do that. I'm jealous. I'm insecure. I'm sad. I'm lonely because she left me. He just says, yeah, I'm stressed out. I feel effed up. Is that right?
That's right.
So if you can't identify with your own emotions, how can you cope with them? And coping skills is what we want to talk about, because negative coping skills is what gets us into prison. Negative coping skills leads to either explosion or implosion. And when we explode, up north, we say you pop off, you get violent, right? Or implosion, where you break down or decompensate within. And all of us know what that means, right? We're going to get high. We're going to get high. So, I wound up in prison. For 17 years while I was away, I dedicated myself to study, to writing, to teaching, to analyzing, and I really locked myself in. Days when it was time to go to the yard, I stayed inside. I studied myself. I studied where I lived, who I interacted with, every place I went to school, every place I was, because it couldn't have been just environment, right? Because my brother wasn't locked up. My cousins weren't locked up. What was wrong with me? So it wasn't environment. It was choice. It was my thinking.
That's right. That's right. Right there.
It was my thinking.
Yeah. That's right.
See? So I had to experience what's called a paradigm shift.
That's right.
Right? Where I realized I was a victimizer. I was victimized in my own community selling drugs. I was hurting people. Right? And I enjoyed it. Because they say hurt people do what? Hurt people, hurt people. That's why y'all know. See, this ain't no difference where you from. Right? I'm driving here. Miami's a beautiful city. Right? 5.5 million population, beautiful beaches, wonderful nightlife. Right? They say beautiful women, right? Had that everywhere though, right?
That's right.
I don't want to offend anybody that's not from Miami though. But the truth is, all of that's nice. And it's a distraction.
That's what it
But
is.
nobody talks about the pain in Miami.
Wow.
The gang culture in Miami. I was reading up, doing some research before I got here about the Soap Pound.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Ruthless. On On my way here, all I saw was poverty, homelessness, pain. And I noticed immediately how geographically and environmentally, I'm in one part of the city and automatically, boom, it just changed. Why is that?
Control.
Why is it that drugs are coming in to just certain communities and guns? Is it on purpose? Are these communities targeted? Why is it that statistically everybody that's in prison are from particular counties? The majority of them. Something's going on. Thank you, brother. Something's going on. Somebody wants our children locked up.
Come on, brother. Come on.
They're building prison after prison.
Right.
They're privatizing prisons.
Right.
There's a major label for this thing going on right now,
Moolah.
and it's part of Wall Street.
That's it, baby.
More money, more money.
Our children are becoming commodities, and if we don't do something and take a stance to stop it, our children and our grandchildren
That's it.
will fill in prison houses.
That's right.
And when they get you in there, they give you a cheap labor job.
Come on. That's right.
You start making license plates and building furniture and cabinets.
That's right.
Right? And they want to reward you with a vocational trade. I'm not knocking a blue-collar worker. But the purpose for them to do that is to create a labor industry so when you come out only on that level.
That's right.
They don't want to promote higher education.
That's
They don't want you to go to college. They don't want you to stand up here and do what I'm doing.
No.
So, you know, I realized when I was in prison that I was on the wrong side. I read a book that told me that policemen and military personnel score psychologically the same way that criminals do. Right? And I thought about it. I said, damn, you know what? I would love to be driving 120 miles an hour, busting my gun with a siren on. I would love that. Jumping out of a parallel rope down with a machine gun. I just joined the wrong side.
Right.
Right? And I'm not saying that you know, that's what we're supposed to be shooting each other. No, no. There are some good policemen, and we know there are some corrupt ones, right? My point is that the energy, the ability, the skill, right, the spirit of our youth is kind of misdirected. And like them, I was misdirected. And I needed somebody to come to me and say, you know, no, don't go that way, young brother, come this way.
That's right. That's right.
The ones told me to go get the drugs, they taught me how to sell it, how to cook it, how to put it together. And I wound up working in a crack lab.
Wow.
You say, wow. I worked in a crack lab. I cooked cocaine, crack. And I did it, sold it. And now when I'm looking in the prison system, I'm looking at these young brothers, and I count back, you see 86, 87. And I'm like, looking at their ages, and these are the young brothers, right, who were babies when their mothers were smoking crack that I was selling it to.
Wow. And
I'm looking at them like they have a story, like we have a story, but they see some stuff in their household that we ain't never seen.
that's right.
And they not talking about it. So I felt responsible. And I felt ashamed. And I said, I didn't just kill one person, I've been killing my people.
That's right. There you go. That's right.
And I can't live like that no more. Actually, that wasn't even living. Let's talk about that. Because if you're coming up in poverty, there's one thing you do learn how to do, and that's what? Survive, right? Survive. And if you go into the streets and learn the different realms of criminality, you learn how to do what? Survive. You wind up in prison. You have to learn how to what? Survive.
That's right.
But there's one thing they didn't teach us. They didn't teach us how to live. And it's not about survival, it's about living. I say all the time, it's about living. Because if you get into living mode, they are trapped in survival mode. And when they come home and try to learn how to live, and learn from programs like transition, you see that? The prison bar,
Wow.
drawing the face out. I lived this.
Wow.
You went from not being seen, nothing, non-existent, to a human being. Transcending your situation. Something in transition, right? Coming from someplace to someplace. That's powerful. Because sometimes things get lost in transition. I applaud you, Mr. Bermudez, and your staff. This is a wonderful program. And I work with a wonderful program called the Doe Fund in New York. And when you get to connect with other programs, and you get to see and feel the pulse and the spirit of the people, man, we're doing the same work, and it's a beautiful thing.
Come on, amen.
Because there's suffering
That's it.
all over this country.
That's right.
And we need brothers and sisters to stand up and take that torchlight and show them that we can make a change. We don't have to lose our children.
That's it.
And I don't care who don't want to do it, I'm going to do it.
I hear you.
I want to crisscross this country
I'm with you on that.
and hit every nook and cranny of this country with this message about saving our youth,
That's it.
because they killing our youth. And our youth are killing each other.
That's it. That's it.
In prison, when this paradigm shift took place, I went to the parole board, and I didn't say, you have to let me go because, I'm not going to commit any more crime, because I'm not going to come back to prison. See, I didn't say that. You know why I didn't say that? Because I realized it wasn't about me. When you go up to that parole board, right, these people are studying criminology. Not criminality, criminology, right? We study criminality. And we think like criminals, right? Because a criminal, when he gets bored, what does he do? He victimizes somebody, right? I'm bored today, let me go find somebody to victimize. A responsible person, when they get bored, they find a leisure activity, right? So when I told the parole board, it's not about me coming back to prison. Because when you say that, you make yourself the victim. And you don't acknowledge that you were the victimizer. You have to let me go because I need to complete paying my debt to society. I was a victimizer. And my face is smashed against the glass ceilings of corrections. I have done everything I can possibly do in here. And you need to let me go so I can continue to pay my debt in society to society.
Wow.
And it's an ongoing lifetime debt that has to be paid, especially when you took lives. So that's a transition. That's a change. And that has to happen for each individual personally. You can't make it happen. But you can only give them the tools, the knowledge, the wisdom, the light, the love, most important.
That's right.
Right? The love. Because if you don't give them the love, they're not going to be receptive to you. It's like the sun. Sun got light, but it got heat, right? So you got to have a whole lot of light, a whole lot of knowledge, but if you have no love, they don't feel the warmth, they're going to turn their back to you. Programs like this, right, are important because your clientele cannot make you feel like they're a project to fix. You're not a project, you're not a program, and you damn sure are not a prophet.
Okay.
But some approach it like that, right? So if we're talking about social change, then the approach has to be different. It's not necessarily meet them where they are, but understand who they are and what they're going through, right? Because leaving prison is scary. Now we don't know where the individual, male or female, is internally, right? Because there's that internal transition process going on. Then there's the external transition process going on when they hit the street, right? Automatically they feel a certain kind of way. right? Nobody's gonna accept me, right? Starting with the family, right? You don't feel welcomed in the house sometimes. You feel like a guest. Nobody's gonna give me a job. Nobody's gonna accept me. They're gonna hold my prison record over my head, correct? These are all real human feelings.
Right.
Of a real human experience. And if we approach it like it's a human experience, then we can make the connection. But if we treat them like they're just something to fix, they're not going to be receptive to it. We need more brothers and sisters who have had a checkered past to get involved and be active in the community, saving these lives. Because those are the ones they can connect with. I respect the intelligence in the room. I respect the levels of academia in the room and professional experience. There's people in this room with master's degrees, bachelor's degrees, perhaps even a PhD. But in the words of Malcolm X, he said the best credential is experience and sincerity. And if you just have that, they'll trust you. They'll unearth some of the things that's been buried inside, right? Killing them for years. When I looked around the prison yard, I saw a graveyard, is what I saw. An emotional graveyard is what I call it. And I used to do workshops where I would have a flip chart and draw grave headstones, right? But on each headstone, it would have an emotion. Because that's what was walking around me, right? Because they say memories are like ghosts, right? And there's a lot of gentlemen that were walking around me with feelings that they weren't dealing with. They looked okay. You know the cliche, I'm okay, on the outside, but on the inside, something else is going on. They need healing. They need somebody to talk to. Not talk to them, they need to talk. We need to listen. They have the answers. I work for a man who started off a program at Grand Central Station giving out sandwiches. And the homeless told him, we don't want no damn sandwich, we want a job. And the organization, see, you can identify with that. That's right. And the organization from that moment grew to the point where we provide jobs all over New York City. So my point is that we have to listen. The answers come right from those that we're servicing. We just have to listen. We have to listen. And the brothers who are in transition, you have to listen. You have to trust, right? See, that's a hard thing to do. When you come from a world of, I don't trust nobody, right? I don't trust nobody in the street. I don't trust nobody in prison. That becomes your thing. I don't trust nobody. A female said to me one day, she said, well, I don't trust people who don't trust people. And I had to look at that. She said, I don't trust people who don't trust people. Right? And then she sent somebody to visit me. He was a Caucasian male. He was a lawyer. And he's, why you come to see me? What are you interested in seeing me for? And he said, because I want you to know that there are still some good people in the world who genuinely care. Everybody's not out to get you. Everybody's not out to hurt you. And that's when I said to myself, you know what? Something's wrong with me. I got to get my thing together. Right? And I started to analyze, to critically analyze my thinking, my feelings, and my behavior. And I said to myself, my mother goes to work, my grandmother goes to work, my grandfather goes to work, and they ain't invite nobody to the bathroom to fight for 5 minutes. What the hell is wrong with me? Right? All us running around in the penitentiary, let's shoot fire. Let's go in the bathroom. Your mother ain't doing that.
Okay.
Something's wrong.
Yeah.
There's an unwritten law that says if you, I don't want to say it, but if you're a man and you invite another man to your private part, y'all know what I mean, right? SMD, that you have to fight, that you have to kill him now. You have to respond to that. Anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who made that up? Because what that means is, when parole says, yo, you can go home tomorrow, and all it takes is for somebody to walk up to me and say, SMD, I'm not going home tomorrow. So you can control me just like that? These are the little things we need to really re-examine in our little thug personality. And these little self-created thought forms and personalities that are just burying our true self. The transition, the paradigm shift is real simple. If you can learn to think through the framework of your true self and know when you're thinking through your image-driven framework, then you can check yourself from within. Is it your image that's responding, or is it your true self? And y'all know when you feel disrespected, right? You might respond, you know, depending on how you're feeling, right? You may ignore it, but then as soon as you get 5 minutes away somewhere, you start thinking it's actually slapping. Right? Right? See, that's that image. That's that image. But the image job is to destroy your true self.
That's true. Yeah.
Right? The true self is going to check you. True self, I ain't thinking about you. But that image. And 9 times out of 10, everybody that is incarcerated can relate their incarceration and the choice that they made in that split-second decision is an image-driven thought process.
Wow.
So,
So true.
whoever this hidden enemy is that's keeping the drugs and the guns available to us, right? That's a factor. But the number one component is you. It's the choice that you make.
That's right.
Choice. Very important. So, I'm going off on a tangent, right? I came home in 2010. After being gone since 1993. 17 years. 17 summers walking around in circles. Right? So we spin the yard. That's what we call it, spinning the yard. 17 years on the pull-up bar. 17 years pushing steel. But also 17 years of writing. Right? And getting involved in all different kind of classes and teaching. And I had the opportunity to come home and either do the right thing or go backwards, right? So, as Mr. Bermuda said, I was released, not on my first board, on my second, my third. And it happened to just fall on my mother's birthday. I said, wow, look at that. On my mother's birthday, I have the opportunity to be reborn on her birthday, not mine.
Right.
May 7th, 2010, I was released.
Okay.
And 5 minutes into driving off the property, I threw up. I threw up. Because I was sitting in the passenger seat, and it's funny because I drive like a maniac now, right? But I'm laughing because I'm sitting in the passenger seat, and because of the external stimuli that I wasn't used to, it was too much, too fast. I'm used to being in a bus, chained, if we're going from one prison to the next. I threw up. And I said, whoa. I started crying. I hadn't cried in a while. I actually cried because I realized the effect that the prison system at the time had on me, where just environmentally my body responded like that. So I knew I had to be careful. I had to take my time, and I had to relearn and be a baby again. And I had to let people help me, and I had to trust people.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was in an unhealthy relationship with a control freak. And I say that with no disrespect. I had to get out of that relationship, and I deposited myself in a program similar to this called the Doe Fund. And the dope fund embraced me. They gave me a place to live. They gave me a place to transition, right? They provided transitional services, right? They addressed my needs, whatever they were. And I grew. I got my first job working in their cafeteria, washing dishes for $15 a week, right? And I was a drug dealer, right? I'm washing dishes in Harlem, right? For $15 a week. But then I remembered I was up north making license plates for less.
Oh, that's right.
Being like a slave, right? I might even be able to identify some of them license plates I see driving by. You know what I mean? Yeah, I made that one. See that little mark right there? Yeah, that's my signature. So I had to humble myself. And after 30 days of doing that, they observed me, because that's all it was an observation. They gave me a street cleaning route on Columbus Avenue. Now I'm pushing a big garbage can, collecting, you know, waste and dog doodle, all kinds of stuff. And I got people smiling at me, walking up to me. I even saw the singer Cher. She walked by and smiled at me. Thank you, brother. Smiled at me and said, thank you for what you're doing for the community. Bus drivers, beep, beep, nodding, and I realized how powerful the dope fund really is. And some of the people that was, you know, speaking to me, acknowledging me, actually came through those doors. So I said, this is something here. And I used to dream and dream. Then they moved me to Hudson River Park, down by the water, by the piers. I worked there for another 30 days. Then the back team, then security. So while I was on security, now I'm just a few months home, and I feel like a CO now, right? So this was a very interesting part of the transition, because I went from being on the count, right, behind the gate, to now locking the gate and calling the count. Now I'm enforcing policy, right? I'm giving, you know, the responsibility of a city building, and I have to protect the clients, but also govern them and give them a structure that they're not used to. And I'm getting responses like, man, I ain't walking through that Mac now with an SMD. So, right there, right, a split-second decision, I could have been a recidivist.
Yeah, right back.
Right back.
And when you're a recidivist, it don't happen when you get there. It happens when you make that decision. Right? Just like a relapse. It don't happen when you pick it up. It happens when you think about picking it up. And you're on your way. So I had to grow. I had a lot of rough edges that I had to get off. And the staff helped me chip those little rough edges away. That's the best thing I could have did, was work security. Because it put me in a confrontational setting, and I had to learn how to adapt. How to learn verbal judo. How to just weave around something somebody said negative and turn it into a positive. How to calm down situations. Right? Conflict resolution. But I could have easily just said, you know what, man, I'm a cold-blooded killer, man. Throw you through the window. Boom. No. So I needed to grow. And being released and making that transition is very difficult, and it can be very rocky. The staff continued to work with me. I exhibited responsibility, I exhibited trust and integrity. Interacted with NYPD, EMS, helping the clients. Eventually, 11 months into the program, I was hired as a security guard. And I did my job so well, I outdid some of the staff members. And in a year, they made me their supervisor. Now they looking at me kind of funny, right? So now this is a different level of transitioning, because now I'm dealing with not jailhouse politics, right? Job politics.
Come on.
And I can't respond to it like I did in the penitentiary, right? When I got staff members trying to set me up as a staff member and get fired. See, I'm ready to take it back to the streets, but I couldn't do that.
Right.
I couldn't do that. Because again, I'm in transition. right? All this is going on at the same time. I'm trying to figure out what the, right? What is the email? What is e-banking? The last thing I had was the big gray Nino Brown with the rubber tip. Right? You remember the Motorola's? You remember those? That's the last phone I had. Right? And I put myself in that computer class and I learned. I learned Excel, I learned PowerPoint, I learned Word, I learned email etiquette. And now, there's probably, I don't think, I have a reports meeting I have to attend every Friday. And you all have to report on our department. I don't think nobody in there has a tighter report by email but me in that whole room. But I had to learn. I had to submit myself to something. And I made that transition. And then I said to the director, I said, I don't want to do the security thing for the rest of my life. Because I'm starting to forget why I'm here. I'm not feeling the same way putting on my uniform every day, coming to work, feeling like I'm here to help people because it's too confrontational. And it's kicking up my stuff. Yeah. Right? I'm being honest. I'm being honest about my feelings. Yeah. I'm aware of my feelings, and I knew I had to do something different. So he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to learn fact. So he said to me, there's two kind of people. And there's two generations in this organization. One of those older guys who sit around and wait for somebody to notice them, and there's the newer guys like you that just push up, that kick in the door and say, I want to learn something. All right. He said, what do you want to learn? I said, that. It's a machine that tests the urine. It's a toxicology lab in the building. In our program, we have a lab that has these machines that can test for any drug. Can even tell you how much caffeine you have in your body. Right. So he said, if you get a job, I'll make sure that you learn that myself. I said, okay. They hired me on security. I went back to him. He said, now move out. So I moved out. Now I'm dealing with independent living. Right? Another transition. Yeah. Yeah. All right? I came back to him. He said, you still want to learn that? I said, yes. Now my shift was 4 to 12. 4 in the afternoon to 12 at night. Parole knows I'm not supposed to be working security, right? Especially from 4 to 12, because I have a curfew. But because I did so well, and the organization I worked for and came from, right, backed me, met with parole, they changed the language from security guard to residential aid, right? To satisfy the parole supervisor, right? This is what I'm saying. People will back you if you do the right thing. Is what I'm saying. If you exhibit integrity and trust, they will give you responsibilities, man. Absolutely. And have your back. And the parole, they went for it. Now I'm leaving at midnight, going home, and I'm coming back at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's 3 hours. To learn a machine, to learn a skill set. I did that for a whole year voluntarily. Let's talk about volunteering. Right? Volunteering. Volunteering is a wonderful thing. If you think short term, it won't make sense to you. That's right. But if you have long-term mature thinking, right? Volunteering shows what you're really about. See? You could be anywhere right now, right? But you're here, right? You didn't come with the excuse that it's raining. Your presence says something, right? I volunteered for a whole year, and then I was offered a part-time job. So I worked as a security supervisor, 4 to 12, and on weekends at another facility, I tested the client's urine. My parole officer said to me, he said, you sure this is what you want to do? I said, yes. He says, well, I got some good news for you. I said, what? He said, you've been on parole 3 years. You got about 6 more to go. They're letting you go. Wow. 6 years earlier off parole. Just for doing the right thing. So now I'm like, whoa, I can't mess this up. So now more trials came, right? The envy started. The jealousy started. More confrontations kept coming, testing me, calling me back to the penitentiary, right? Calling me. And I had to just keep doing the right thing, believing, and connecting with the people that were healthy versus the ones that were unhealthy. I had to cut off relationships. I had to leave certain people alone. I had to even get out of personal relationships. Because to be honest with you, I didn't realize I wasn't ready when I came home from a relationship. And you have to really know yourself and know if you did a lot of time, you may not want to come home and just get married. You know? And I can say that, I mean, we're not in confession, but, you know, I didn't make all the right choices. I moved a little fast. And it's all relating to that transition, right? Of course, you want love, everybody wants companionship, but that may not be healthy for you at that time.
That's right.
And I hurt people. So now you go from physically hurting people, right? You come home and you're still emotionally hurting people. And that's something that you have to deal with. But you have to own it. And you have to deal with it and amend for it. Not let it tear you down. Because it's a process, right? It's a human experience. You don't start off full, right? You start off underdeveloped, and you get better. As long as you keep showing up, you keep what? Growing up and getting better. So, finally, I was asked to speak at an annual gathering on Christmas Day last year in Grand Central Station. And I spoke and I told my story. It was a scripted speech that I was allowed to edit, and it inspired some. I understand maybe it inspired many, but a director from another program that's a sister facility of the program I work for, he came to me and said, "Don't you work for me part-time?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You work in the lab, right?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You want to come full-time?" Wow. I said, "Let's go."
Okay.
So from there, he hired me to be a full-time lab technician. I got credentialed from the company that makes the machines and certified. So now I have the full-time job and still the part-time job on the weekend, right? So I'm hustling. I'm trying to do, you know? And then it hit me. I said, I done went from the crack lab to the urine lab. Who does that? But that's a transition, right? And I was good in the crack lab. I just was doing the wrong thing, right? Now I test. We have a building with 400 clients in it, right? 400 men who are battling either chemical dependency, post-incarceration syndrome, right? They need and get out. It's a variety of different issues, right? Or all of the above, right? We have veterans in our program, and that's a whole another component, right? Mental health component, it's a whole another brig. And we have a youth program. So these are the men, not just clientele, but the men that I work with every day. And when I pull up, you know, because things have changed now, I can pull up now. You know what I mean? I ain't using MetroCard no more.
I know that.
And I'm thankful. Yeah. But when I pull up and they look, they see light. They see hope.
Yes.
And I come in. I test a floor a day. I was promoted to become the supervisor of the whole thing. I test a floor a day. There's about 100 and change on the floor. There's 400 in the building. And I do this. Within 3 months of me just trying to get past probation for this new job, I was promoted to become the supervisor of the whole department.
Wow.
And You know, and this is all within that small time period. So much so that the gentleman who thought he was going to get the position went down. He completely lost his mind, cursed the director out because he felt overlooked. But the reality was that my performance in 3 months was better than what he did in 3 years.
Jesus.
Because I took the initiative
Yeah.
to do things and figure out things and create new systems to bring something new that needed to be done. The leadership. So the same skills that I exhibited in prison, I kind of took them home and put them into practice. The same stuff I did in the street, I brought it and flipped it to the positive side and made something positive out of it. Rather than tearing something down, I'm constructing things now. So then I was given the challenge to find somebody to replace him and build him to the point where he's able to replace me.
Wow.
Right? Everybody can't do that. What you mean replace me? But if you're really about growth and development of your people, then you're going to constantly grow,
right.
and you won't feel threatened by somebody else
right.
coming and filling in your shoes, right?
That's right.
So and it's beautiful to understand and watch your own self mature and
That's
grow
right.
and become socialized where you're not even, you can't even call, what? You
Okay.
don't even know I was locked up.
Okay.
So, unless I get back on my,
Yeah.
my little street thing, but the transition is it's a beautiful thing. And I'm proud of myself. This summer, right? I'm gonna share something with y'all. This summer, I went to my mother's house out in Jersey. Parked the car, went in, we had a cookout or whatever, and it was my birthday weekend. My aunt, her birthday's like 3 days after mine. So when it was over, somebody said, "You gonna drive Aunt Emily home?" And I looked, and like that was something that would never even be suggested, right? In my prior life. We not getting in the car with him nowhere. And when I heard it, I'm like, and I'm looking at her, and she's like, "Yeah." So she got in the car, I drove her back to the Bronx, and she doesn't know what I'm thinking, right? But it made me feel good because not just on my job, but now even my family
Right.
views me differently.
Right.
You know what I mean? My family's looking at me like, wow. I have a family member, my Aunt Gail, she's married to George Knox. He's retired former CEO of Philip Morris, big cigarette company, Philip Morris in New York. And I just met with them. We had a phone conference the other day. And this is the side of the family that, that really wasn't trying to mess with me. And I was into selling drugs and all that craziness. We sat down because they've been watching. And people are going to watch through Facebook, right? They're going to listen and watch and hear whatever you're doing. And they've been watching me now for 4.5 years. And we sat down, was it yesterday? It was, 2 days ago. And they're going to help me. They're doing the research and the groundwork so I can start my own non-for-profit organization.
Come on.
And the layers keep coming, right? I was away 17 years. I have a 27-year-old son who has 2 children, my grandchildren. I have a 24-year-old daughter. And she has a little girl, my granddaughter. And I have a baby. A little baby. 2, right? She'll be 2 next month. My son was raised by another man. And his mother and I, we were young, just way before I went to prison. She wrote me a letter when I was incarcerated, asking me to give up my last name so my son could have her new husband's last name. And I said no, I wasn't going to do that. And,
Before? Your son?
What do you mean?
You're the third.
No, he's not. No, I broke that cycle. No, he's no. Because I really didn't want to repeat the cycle of my father and my grandfather. See, I want to stop that and change some things. So he's not the fourth. He has a different name. But I said all that to say that years later, right, just the other day, when his stepfather found out about the things that I'm doing, stopping home, he inboxed me on Facebook and he said, I support what you're doing, I respect what you're doing, and he said, I view you as a hero.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. And I said to him, I said, no one has ever called me that.
Wow.
You know, honorable, a hero. And I said to him, I said, that means a lot to me coming from a man who raised my son.
Yeah.
So, people will change if you change.
Yeah.
If you're in transition, so are the people. See? Their view of you is going to change. The way they handle you is going to change. And the opportunities that you will expose yourself to will change. And there's no limit. There's no limit at all. One of my idols is Jay-Z. I don't get too much, into people's personality, but the principles is what I like. Keep principles over personalities. And I've watched that brother come into an industry from an other kind of industry, right? Right? That I know all about, and he took it to the next level. And he's constantly taking it to the next level. And we can do the same thing. And whatever respective place of employment you work, whatever position, you can do that. Just connect yourself with somebody. Learn from them. Walk with them. Shadow them. You did that with the drug dealer, right?
That's right.
So, I'm kind of all over the place right now. But I'm feeling the energy in the room. Everybody all right?
Awesome.
Am I making sense?
Awesome.
I'm not losing anybody. Because I love y'all. Y'all are my people. I don't care where you're from. I don't get caught up in that. I'm from Miami, I'm from New York. Leave that in sports, man. We all the same people. We the same people. We got the same pain. Don't disrespect. I said I got love for Jay-Z. But that entertainment stuff, our children are idolized with the wrong people. We need heroes. We need people who've been through something. And since 9/11, and I was locked up for 9/11, right? But I've been paying attention to the book reviews, and the most popular reads consistently since then have been memoirs, right? And books about people who've been through something and survived it. So, what happens? A politician will say, well, people are tired of being victimized, so they're going to buy into this 85% more time, right? And we bought into that, especially in New York. But then they found out through studies that the gentlemen who were doing 85% of their time only did more time to go home and what? Come right back. So what's the problem? The problem is transition. You lock somebody away, right? And we don't want to minimize, they did crime, fine. Yeah, they victimized somebody, they did something wrong. But how do we correct that? We want to honor the higher principle of justice and lock them away, but where's the responsibility of helping to make the change? So if isolation and separation is the answer, which we know it's not, once they come home, right, with a depreciated skill set during a recession, right, and a technological era that's moving as fast. Internally and externally, these barriers and challenges are phenomenal. And the smartest person would not want to be in a situation like that. 2010, 40 years old, coming home to a recession where 22-year-olds with a degree can't get a job.
Come on.
How do you think I felt? What am I going to do? And you seen it in the movie Shawshank Redemption. Doc, he knew everything in prison, right? Doc was real known. Everybody knew him in prison. Got out to the street. Nobody knew him. He hung himself. A lot of jailhouse lawyers like that. A lot of jailhouse politicians like that. They find a personality and it's all image driven.
Yeah.
Most of it. When you get out, nobody know, man. We don't know you, man. How do you make that transition? So if we come home with a depreciated skill set, right, and we're ill-equipped to make the transition, it's even worse that we come home to a community that's ill-equipped to receive us.
That's right.
And that's the value of programs like Transition, like the Dope Fund, and many others that are out there, but they're not being promoted. They're not given the funding that they deserve.
Come on.
Because programs like this are supposed to make the prison system into a museum.
That's right.
That's our job, right? That's our goal. We want to shut them joints down. Now we know that might be a little, far-fetched because there's always going to be some criminality, right? There's going to be poverty, there's going to be some problems, there's going to be criminality. But everybody don't have to be there. And brother, where's the brother at? Tell me he's been here 15 years. 15 years on his post. And he's a formerly incarcerated brother.
Wow.
Come up here, man. Come up here. We're going to share this platform with you. I want you to look at him. 15 years. Huh?
13.
Oh, I'm sorry. 13.
That's a prophecy.
All right? 13 years he's been right here. Which means he probably saw generations, right, of an incarcerated family, right? He's probably saw the grandfather, the father, and the grandson go in and come out and come through this program. When are we going to have that stop? Anybody else here that's formerly incarcerated? Come on up here, sister. Come on up here, Mr. You too, Mr. Ramirez? Who else? Come on up here. I want them to see you. Formerly incarcerated, come up here. I want them to see you. Each one of these brothers, come on, brother. I don't know them at all. I met them today. But I know them. I know them. And they know me.
Awesome.
And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do it here. We're going to do it everywhere.
Yeah.
So we need your support. We need everybody under the sound of my voice through video in this room. We need your support. We need you to embrace us as human beings that can make a change so that we can go after the ones that need to make a change.